From RFSMART, this is Taking Inventory, a podcast all about better controlling your supply chain and improving inventory management. And now, your host, Sarah Archer.
Welcome to Taking Inventory with RFSMART. My name is Sarah Archer. I'm the digital media coordinator at RFSMART, and I'm the host for this podcast today. I'm joined by an RFSMART customer, which is really exciting. We've got Industry West here. I've got Eric Walker and Preston Stater from Industry West. We're going to talk about the details of their company here in just a minute, but before we do, I wanted to introduce Preston and Eric. So Preston is the warehouse manager at Industry West, and he's been there for a little over 2 years. He worked, though, had a working relationship with them for about 6 years before, right?
Yeah, so 6 years total now. I came up, kind of did everything on the operations side of Industry West in the warehouse. I started off as just a picker, working inside, pulling orders for the company. And that was with the 3PL that we used to use in town. And then I kind of worked my way up and became account manager for that 3PL for Industry West. And 2 years ago, I got hired on to be their warehouse manager.
That's awesome. And Eric, you're the supply chain manager, and you've been there for about 5 years. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. And
same kind of thing, right?
A similar trajectory where I was with the same 3PL. Preston and I have known each other for quite some time. But yeah, been with Industry West formally for 5 years.
So you guys worked at the same place before starting at Industry West?
Correct.
Yep.
So how long have you guys known each other then?
Eric and I have actually known each other since middle school, which is pretty cool. So we've gotten to know each other really well. We were good friends in high school as well, and it's really been a pleasure. And it's been nice having that work out to get to work with one of my best friends.
It's always so much better when you get to work with your friends, right? Yeah. That's one of the things I love about my job too. So, well, we'll go ahead and just kind of jump into your ERP implementation and what that looked like. So, Industry West implemented NetSuite in 2017, and then they implemented RFSMART in 2018. So let's just kind of start at the beginning. Can you guys tell me who is Industry West and what do you do?
Yeah, so Industry West, we are a U.S.-based e-commerce furniture company, and we have studios in Soho, neighborhood of New York, and here in Jacksonville, Florida. And it was started, the company, in 2009, and since it's expanded our offerings to over 3,000 unique pieces. And we have distribution centers strategically located in California and here in Florida. So we largely cater to commercial clientele, but also we offer lines to, residential spaces.
So you guys have distribution centers in California and Florida, but you also have retail locations, right? Where are those at?
The retail locations here in Jacksonville are in San Marco in the square. It's kind of next to the fire department, if anyone's familiar with that area. And then in New York City in Soho, kind of lower Manhattan area, we have a newer studio which opened close to 2 years ago now, I think. And that's really the area that gets, a lot of heavy foot traffic. It's been great for our brand to get, a lot of our clients are in New York. It's one of our biggest markets. So it's gone a long way to spread brand recognition and all of that good stuff up in that area.
So one of the reasons that we at RFSMART love Industry West, besides the fact that you guys are our customers, is that you guys are local to Jacksonville. So RFSMART is headquartered in Jacksonville. And so one of the things that our listeners might not know is that RFSMART and Industry West kind of have a working relationship where if you are hired on at RFSMART, you go and take a tour of the warehouse at Industry West so you can kind of see RFSMART in action. And it's really great for our new hires to be able to see that. And of course, they always come back and comment on what a great experience it was. And so I was kind of hoping that you guys could go ahead and kind of walk us through your warehouse and what that looks like.
Yeah, so as the warehouse manager, I usually am giving those tours, which I have a lot of fun with. I really love the space that we work in. So I can kind of just take you through what I tell the people when they come through. We usually just meet in the break room, have a cup of coffee, talk about what we do, just like what Eric explained. And I'll bring them out, and I always tell them our warehouse is set up in a simple but smart way. Everything kind of runs in a line. There's a receiving end where items are received from overseas on shipping containers. And then there's in the middle of the warehouse, we have all of our racking where things are stored. And then on the other end, the shipping. So things come in one end, get stored and processed, and then they go out the other end.
And what size is your warehouse?
It's 122,000 square feet.
Wow. Do you guys utilize that whole space?
We got space to grow if we need to. We laid it out in a way that makes it easy to expand some of the racking of certain areas should we need to. So plenty of space to grow into.
That's awesome. You guys recently kind of just went through a big growth spurt, and we'll kind of talk about that in a minute. But I want to rewind before we get there and just talk about when you implemented NetSuite. When you guys did that implementation, at what point did you recognize that you needed a WMS?
Yeah, so previous to using NetSuite, we were using another cloud-based, software that was really more of an accounting, kind of oriented system, and we recognized the need for an ERP around that time, and just vetted out a few different ones. Saw Oracle and NetSuite, and how well resourced and developed it was, and had been around for such a long time that after some initial scoping out, it looked like it was going to be a good fit.
And so maybe even the question to ask before this, but what was it that prompted you, once you adopted NetSuite, to kind of, I guess, what was the catalyst to move you forward in that? Was there a moment where you guys were like, okay, we need a WMS?
Yeah, I think the 3PL that we were working with, there was a homegrown kind of inventory management system in that, and then, in the software that Industry West was using, it didn't keep track of bins or anything like that. It was just, you got stock, it's on hand, it's available, it's back ordered, it's on order, things like that. So as we were going to transition, we were planning to transition to a new warehouse and really, overhaul that warehouse management system. We went to SuiteWorld after we had implemented NetSuite, and expressly with the idea of looking for a WMS and a TMS, and we found that WMS in RFSMART.
And if I could just add to that, I think part of what it was really necessary, because we were looking at new warehouses and we were going to make a move, and we knew that we weren't going to be able to do that on paper. Mm-hmm. We needed scan guns, we needed barcodes, we needed all of the things that RFSMART offered, and that Eric and Sissy, found when they were at SuiteWorld, and it was just a right time, right company, perfect fit.
So let's talk a little bit about that growth. So you guys kind of, as we kind of already touched on, you experienced a great deal of growth. And so can you talk about your strategy for handling that? Maybe share some stories about your warehouse move and that implementation.
Mm-hmm. Well, Preston, maybe you can kind of give an image of, what it was like prior to the move.
Yeah, so the warehouse we were in multiple different warehouses end of 2018, middle of 2018, before we moved, and they were facilities that got the job done, but they clearly did not give us space to grow, and we just wanted something nicer that reflected our brand and everything. And the warehouse move was months of planning. We had spreadsheet on spreadsheet of assigned tasks for different people. One of the biggest tasks was getting labels on products, because a lot of the stuff at the time, our suppliers were not barcoding labels on product because we didn't have a warehouse management system that used scan guns. So why did we need it? So we started first by barcoding everything, getting a best stock count that we could on everything. And then we started lining up truck drivers. I think we had 8 truck drivers that we hired for a span of
about a 2-week period.
Yeah. And I think in the end, we took 196 40-foot truckloads from one warehouse on the south side of town all the way out to the west side in the Cecil Commerce Center. And, it was just a huge team effort. I've never been part of an operation that large, so it was really cool experience. It was a bear.
Yeah. So, before this, we were, in Excel spreadsheets, we were in manual put away, sheets that somebody would have to manually key in. just a lot of processes that needed some upgrade, and the scan guns were a big part of that, and the move would not have been possible without that, because it allowed us to just receive the items into the new warehouse, and then from there we would just scan into the bins as we put away, which made it a much more efficient process than manually writing everything down and then having to go back and key it in.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about your bin processes and put away. Before we get there, though, I've got a question for you. At RFSMART, our mission is that we exist to transform customers and change lives. And so since the move and adoption of RFSMART and NetSuite, I want to know what features of RFSMART and NetSuite are transforming your business.
So I'd say the top 3 that we use the most are bin transfers, stock picking. So we use the native version of stock picking that RFSMART has, but we've had some customization done to it, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit more later. And then stock counts. So again, we kind of touched on the bin transfer thing. Bin transfers used to be, hey, I'm taking these 5 chairs from this location, receiving 1 and putting it in A01, A01. And they would write that down on a piece of paper, the SKU, the location it came from, the location they're putting it on. And then I would have to get those pieces of paper, or, whoever was keying those things in, read someone's handwriting, first of all, which is always difficult. And then, make sure you don't make any typos when you're typing stuff in. So the transformation from having to do that to just someone, scan a barcode and scan your bin and you're done is the biggest time saver in the world. That's probably where we save the most time, just being able to put things away and process our inventory. Mm-hmm. The stock picking is also hugely transformational, because I used to have to write down the bin numbers where people were going to be going to pick things from on a piece of paper and then hand it to them, and then they'd have to go and make sure they picked from the right bin. Whereas now RFSMART tells you exactly where you need to go, tells you exactly how many pieces you need to get based off of the order in NetSuite. You can't pick it wrong, because you have to scan the right bin to get it out of the right bin. You have to scan the right barcode on the item to get the right item. So you're always confirming. It's always double checking you. And it's transformed us. Our numbers for accuracy and shipping have gone way up. Before the move and before we implemented RFSMART, we were pretty good, around a 98% shipping accuracy. And now we're consistently 99.5 and above. I think we've had past 2 months of 100% shipping accuracy, which is pretty great. We ship over 10,000 individual items a month, sometimes a lot more than that. So RFSMART has transformed us majorly in those ways.
And not to mention, the effect it has on our supporting departments, to have to resolve issues with customers a lot less, relating to accuracy or misships or, things like that.
So I have a question about your warehouse move. And one of the things you guys mentioned is now you used to have to, go to a bin, find it, write it down. When you guys did your warehouse move, did you optimize your warehouse so that having a WMS would fit into that?
Yeah, so we did. When we originally set up the warehouse, we were, I think, looking at using Pick Planner, which we kind of shifted away from, just because Pick Planner kind of forced us into picking in a certain way. And we like to give our pickers agency in the way that they pick. And, we have stand-up meetings with everybody most days, and I give direction on, hey, like today we're slow. We can pick to empty bins because we've got the time to go and kind of shore up stuff where we've got onesie twosies and bins around. But then there's other days where it's like, all right, guys, we need to be on it and be picking fast, go pick best bin. And so the customization we did in our sales order picking, it gives the ability of the picker to sort the bins by quantity or just by order that they are in the warehouse. So we had the serpentine, but it's really just put product where you can put it, pick it from where it's telling you to pick it, or you find the best place to go pick it.
I mean, sometimes that's what you've got to do, right? Sometimes you got to make it work for you. So
to answer your question on how we set up the warehouse, we were really thinking more about how it best fits our product, because our product is, some of it's it's bulky furniture. So it's really just set up so like bottom two bins are taller, so you can put taller items that are kind of awkward to get out.
Bar stools,
like lounge chairs, things like this. Yeah, and then the middle two are more for smaller side chairs, side tables, tiny, smaller things. And the very top we use for oversized extended pallets that tabletops, couches, all that kind of stuff goes on.
So we talked a little about bins before and kind of how you guys set that up. I want to know a little bit about your quality control process and your put away. So put away was one of the things you guys said kind of changed, was new with RFSMART. Can you guys talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so, we'll have our different suppliers, and as Preston said earlier, we get those items barcoded at production, and when they come to us, it's a matter of verifying various things about the product that comes in. A receiver is provided to the receiving team lead that, features all the items that are inbound and the quantities. So once that's checked, it's also checked various, factors like, is the colorway correct? Is the hardware present? Are there any discrepancies, basically? So we'll do a sampling of about 5% of each item's quantity when it comes in, just as representative. And, from there, look into any, QA issues that need further addressing.
So we kind of always talk about WMS as a process, right? And you might start at one place, kind of like you said before, you started with one thing, kind of ended with another. And so sometimes you make those changes by adding functionality or changing a process. Is there something that you're doing differently now than when you started with RFSMART, and what brought about that change?
Something that we're doing differently now, I guess.
Yeah, really how we receive, how we put away, how we pick, how we ship, and how we conduct stock counts. Because all of those activities are involving, if not the barcoded label, at least, the scanning of the item to transfer it through these different transactions, which verifies its identity and, ensures accuracy.
Well, I love hearing that you guys are able to be flexible with RFSMART and to kind of make it work for you. Were there problems that you were having in the warehouse? Kind of how did you solve them? Were you able to leverage the RFSMART team or our support team?
Yeah. In particular, Robert Franz Mathis, we worked with very closely on the sales order picking advanced, and he would come in and make these house calls and really do a diagnostic of, how we do what we do and how to replicate that within our SMART, with as little friction as possible. And, he did a great job in terms of identifying what the issues were and how to correct them, or, really just adjust the native functionality to be better tailored to our needs.
What advice would you give to other RFSMART users or maybe somebody implementing RFSMART for the first time?
Yeah, I would just, from my side of it, I know Eric really worked more closely with the technical end of things. I was really more providing information to hey, this is really what we would like it to do. Here's how I see it working now. Here's what we'd like to change. I think just being open and really lean on that our SMART support staff, because they're great. They, in my experience, they've done everything that you want them to do. They listen, they come in, they will watch your process, they will try to adapt as best you can, like Eric said, as frictionless as possible. Also thinking about all the front end work that you probably, for us, adapting our SMART and doing this warehouse move, you really do need to make sure that you've got your barcode stuff down. You know how to set up bins and NetSuite and all that kind of stuff. So just being prepared beforehand makes a big difference.
Really determining what that RFSMART function looks like in the reality of the pick and the put away and, or the stock count, whatever it may be. And, it's not probably going to be directly aligned to your current process. Mm-hmm. If you're not already in a WMS, especially if you're not already in a WMS, we were not. So I think achieving that alignment would help for a much smoother implementation.
So is there any advice that you would maybe give for current customers to get just the most out of RFSMART?
Well, I think, all the content that RFSMART puts out, whether it's things like this podcast, whether it's presence at Sweet World, which we've been to in the past few years and is always great. We always learn a lot and come back with new ideas that we're excited to, try out. But yeah, just the sheer amount of content that RFSMART makes available in whatever, medium. But also just, Sweet World, NetSuite related materials that might factor into how you change your use of RFSMART or, how your warehouses or locations or items are set up or anything like that. There's just a lot of innovations constantly being made, so staying on the vanguard of that, even if it's not something you're actively trying to move into, just keeping it on your radar. That's something that since we've moved into NetSuite and, moved into RFSMART, that I've made a much more dedicated effort to, keep my eyes on.
Awesome. Yeah, we do a lot of work, right? Things like this podcast, webinars, blog posts, different content that we can put out to help you guys make the most of RFSMART. All right, well, before we go, I've got one more thing. Preston, you talked earlier a little bit, you shared a few statistics just around some improvements that you guys saw. I think one of the most beneficial things for people who might be thinking about RFSMART or thinking about WMS is just hearing those measurable KPIs, right? Do you have anything that you can share before we go?
Just accuracy. RFSMART has made us more accurate. That's the one line thing I can say. I really can't express enough how much of a difference it makes, because I used to be constantly frustrated with, hey, we've got a misship here. We got to send out something else. And like Eric said, that goes all the way, when we have misships, then our support staff has emails piling up in their email box, and they've got to address it with customers. Then we got to spend more money to send a reship, and that's all free for the customer. Now we're having to pay for that shipping, and we're having to pay for that piece of furniture. So to have, like I said, the past 2 months, we haven't had a single misship, and that's because A, we have a great staff, but B, RFSMART is there supporting them, and it's there making sure that they're doing their job correctly. And it's really taken a lot of stress off of my plate, where now I get to focus on managing a warehouse rather than constantly being on people about picking stuff correctly, Yeah,
I love hearing that. One of the things, the feedback that we get from customers that I love hearing the most is when they feel like they're supported by RFSMART.
Yes.
And it's not just, these random people that we call, right? It's people that people that you feel like you can trust. Yep. And just being a trusted supply chain advisor is really important to us.
Yeah, I know even the guys in the warehouse were getting to know Jonathan because he was in there often enough helping us and supporting us that, the guys would see him come in. And usually when visitors come into the warehouse, they come in a couple times. The warehouse crew doesn't really get to know them, but these guys knew Jonathan because he was in there giving us so much help and teaching us how to use his product and giving us suggestions and all of this good stuff.
That's awesome. I'm glad that you guys are able to see more accuracy, to leverage that in order for your warehouse to run smoother, for your day-to-day jobs to run smoother. That's awesome. It's great to hear. Well, Preston and Eric, thank you so much for being here. A big thank you to Industry West. For those of you who are tuning in, make sure that you're subscribed so you're notified when we put out new podcasts and new episodes. All of that information is available on our website, rfsmart.com, as well as some major streaming platforms. And make sure when you do check out rfsmart.com, you check out the other resources that we mentioned before, our webinars, blog posts, YouTube videos. We've got several demo videos and several hardware videos that can help you leverage your investment as well. Thanks again, guys, so much. And thank you to those of you who are listening. We'll see you again really soon.